Hey, welcome to Bloomington South High School. It was here that Steve Kinser was educated in reading, writing, and arithmetic, and maybe even more importantly, he was a state wrestling champion. Early signs that this man was driven, focused, and determined. Alan, you were telling me that you got along very well with Bob Kinser. You guys knocked each other off the track every other week, and he'd get you, and then you'd get him back, and that sort of thing. Yet you never had a cross word with Bob
never.
Kinser. That's really an interesting dynamic for me, because usually, if I have it right, Bob Kinser would punch you in the mouth if he thought you did him wrong, or he might be coming for a visit. I mean, he had that burly, rough, tough side, didn't he?
He definitely had it. I mean, I can't say he didn't punch anybody in the mouth because I've seen him do it.
Yeah.
I mean? So, actually, I've seen him do it a few times, and maybe one guy too many times.
Yeah. Who was that one guy?
No, we'll just leave all that out.
Okay.
No, actually, it wasn't a driver. Actually, it was a guy, a car owner.
Well, he had it coming, I'm sure.
Well, evidently, one guy thought he had it coming, anyways.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alan, do you think it had something to do with Bob Kinser had 4 kids to feed, and then later on maybe 4 more? Could it be that dynamic there that I got kids to feed, and I'm sorry I'm going to run over you, but I have to win this race? Was that part of it, you think?
Yeah, because I had to make a living too. You know.
Right.
We had to run over each other.
I think everybody out there was trying to make a living back then.
So you had to run over each other
had
to feed the kids. So I didn't want to leave that out. But I look at your dad, Steve, and he's such an imposing figure to me. The big sideburns, and he's always chomping on a cigar. You know, he was a bricklayer by trade and a race car driver. I mean, he'd be a guy that I'd probably be terrified of. Was there a soft side to him at all? Was that there, or was he just all rough edges?
Oh, I'm sure there's a soft side. There's a little bit, but you got to get down pretty deep to the soft part of him. He's got a lot of respect for a lot of people, and most 90% of the people he's going to get along with pretty well. I mean, especially the race fans. I mean, when I started racing, he said, "Son," he said, "the one thing I expect you to do is have time for the race fans. I don't care what happens and how long you race." He said, "You always got to have time for them," and he's always done that. And most racers do that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So if I never spent time with him, I would be on the bad side of him, and I didn't really want to be on the bad side of him either.
Yeah, was he heavy on discipline? If you were going the wrong way, you'd know it soon?
He had a way of not being mean about it, but he could make you. He didn't give you a whole lot of advice, you know what I mean? When racing, you know, the first time I got in a race car, he said, "Well, son, you just got to go out there and make a fast, smooth lap, qualify."
Was that all that? Thanks.
That sounds nice and
Yeah.
easy. Or you know, and if he'd say, "You know, I don't expect you to ever be doing a lot of lying or no lying and no stealing or anything like that." And when he said something, it pretty well stuck with him.
Yeah. Do you think about your dad a lot? I mean, does he still come to mind for you?
Yeah. I mean, I spent so much time wanting to be a race driver and watch him race, and him being a hero of mine
Sure.
growing up. I was definitely and no different than any other son watching their father race, I'm sure.
Of course. Did he not have sort of a rivalry with Dick Gaines? Did they butt heads a little bit?
Yeah, I think they had a rivalry. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to say that's fair with you, Alan.
Okay, I know there's more to this. I'm not going to dig into it, but there was a rivalry there. That's interesting.
Yes, it was.
So you did grow up in Bloomington as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Is your boyhood home still standing? The home you grew up in, the house?
No, it's not.
It's not. Okay, it's gone. Okay. I went over and looked at the high school you went to, and you must have a level, looking at your racing record, you must have a level of determination and focus unmatched by most, because you were also a state champion wrestler in high school. Is that true?
That's
Yes?
true.
Yeah? Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't know how I even picked wrestling up. In the 6th grade or something, I just sort of picked it up and always enjoyed playing football. I was a pretty good football player, but I had actually beat one of the a high school coach's son in a city tournament in junior high school and middle school. And ever since then, he was also assistant football coach, but he just sort of asked me to sort of stick with wrestling and things, and I sort of did. I sort of regret that I didn't go ahead and play football, but I enjoyed both sports, but I
Yeah.
just had to pick one.
But you were a state champion wrestler, what, your senior year?
I was a second my junior year and one in my senior year.
What weight class did you, what was it?
132.
132, wow.
I'd cut from about 150 down to
Yeah.
every year and stuff.
Lean and mean,
155,
huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Is it true that when your teacher asked what your dad did for a living, your answer was something to the effect of drink beer, fight, and race cars? Is that a...
Something pretty close to that. I don't know exactly what I said. I said I
man.
want to race cars, drink beer, and I don't think at first grade I'd have probably said chase girls, but
You might have.
no, I don't think I would
No?
in first
Okay.
grade. I had more into racing. Than
Okay.
My dad had some drinks, but he never would ever. You know, back in those days, there was a few people would get out on the racetrack and have a few drinks and stuff, but he never was one to
Yeah.
ever do that. And he was always took his racing pretty serious, so he made sure pretty well in the right state of mind.
Do you still communicate with any of your old school chums from school? I mean, are they still your buddies, friends? Or?
Oh, I got a few, but not too many. I mean, over the years, I've was going so long, and everybody sort of split up, and I never had a chance to make it to a class reunion or nothing like that because I was always out traveling, racing. So, you know, I just got a few close friends around here in Bloomington, so I don't move around a whole lot.
And you can't do better than Alan Barr as a bud.
No, but Alan's he's still 40 miles away. So
Yeah.
But neither one of us want to get on motorcycles anymore. Is a problem. So I don't know.
That's probably a good idea. One of your better moves. I know that in the early days, Larry Miller, who was a stud in that Big Bertha car for Karl Kinser, won a lot of races. He retired. Dick Gaines got in the seat. Dick Gaines got hurt in 1977, and Karl Kinser sent Paul Elrod to Florida and said, tell me who's a good sprint car driver. Come back and give me some names, because he needed a driver. He came back with Danny Smith and Steve Kinser. Is that how you got the ride? Did you understand it with Karl?
Oh, I don't know. I think Karl had watched both of us race quite a bit. I don't know if Elrod made that decision. You know, I wanted to race so bad. I had a chance to get in a few cars, and Galen Fox said, Steve, he said, just try, if you can, just wait and try to get in a good piece of equipment. I said, well, if I get a chance to race, I'm going to race. So, you know, I ran for Bob Thompson around here local a little bit, and we got to running pretty good. And when I knew I had it made I knew how fast Karl's cars were, whether it was pavement cars, dirt cars. My dad drove roadsters for him on pavement. Everything he had, and every driver was in it, he made look good.
Yeah.
Because his cars were fast and he was good.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
So from the time I got hired in that car, I knew I was in the right spot.
Sure.
I knew he had the best race cars around this area, and like I said, everybody that drove them drove fast in the alley. There wasn't nobody ever ran bad. And Karl took this on pretty quick. He was a no drag racer. You know, they did some things with the lightness of the race cars and longer drive lines and things got rid of the OC in and out boxes, and I think it helped his cars a lot, get a hold of the cars along with a few different things. And he was just a very special person watching the race car and keeping up. Karl didn't ever make major changes, but he knew what changes to make at all times, whether it's minor, because he always had his cars pretty close anyways. But the only people didn't know it was basically it was the rest of the country. And then once we started moving out and started running to Devil's Boat and Phoenix and Ascot Park and Northern California, Chico, and stuff like that, they'd sort of laugh at us. We still run them with an open trailer and things coming in there, but And our cars wasn't that pretty, but they were pretty fast.
Yeah, yeah. Would Steve Kinser have been Steve Kinser without Karl Kinser?
No, not at all.
No.
No, he was very special, one of those very few special guys. He could watch a race car, and even if it wasn't right, he could come out on it. If we had a red or a yellow or something, a red when we had to pull over, and he could make some minor changes. He might make small ride heights changes or just a little bit of weight changes. He wasn't one of those guys that just go to cranking and on something guessing.
He knew where he was going with his moves.
He knew exactly where he was going.
Yeah.
He just and his work ethic was second to none.
I've heard.
Back then we had to build a lot of things. I was involved in a very small amount of it, but I mean, he would set me up on some mills and lathes, and we'd make our own stuff, and after that, Verdan's come out with some of the first CNC stuff where he started making all the aluminum arms and different. Before that, we just whittled away.
Yeah.
I never did know Karl to smoke either. But I think the first 2 years I drove for him, he sort of took up smoking. I think he was just sort of scared that I was going to hurt myself in his race car, and eventually, after a couple of years, he finally gave it up and was pretty calm after that.
Did you tell Karl what you wanted in the car, or did he already, by watching you on the track, inherently know what the car needed? How did that dynamic work?
No, I never did really tell Karl what I was doing. Karl was good enough to watch and see what was going on, and I ran for him so long I could almost know what he was going to change. It's hard to tell somebody that good with chassis, and Karl was so good with chassis, and when Scott worked for me, he was really great with motors and good with chassis too, but I don't think he was probably a Karl Kinser with chassis, and I had two good crew chiefs for a lot of years and was fortunate enough to have that. So the stuff that Galen Fox told me to come back and it really helped me a little bit, but it just sort of worked out in a way. I wasn't going to turn any rides down anyway, so it didn't matter.
I gotcha. Well, where was your first race at? Was it in a little hobby stock? Was it in a sprint car? Where was it?
My first sprint car race. Well, the first time, other than just taking Dad's Lawrence Fox's cars out, the 53s and wheel pack, on packet tracks. The first competitive night I ran was actually I ran Bob Thompson's car at Paragon one night.
Okay. Did you win the race?
No.
Oh, no.
No, I didn't win. We didn't have a real big field that night, which I did run in, I think, in the top 10, but it was somewhere back. No, I didn't win. No way I won the first race.
Karl told me a story about, I think it was Bloomington. Early on in your career, Cecil Beavers, didn't have his car there, but he said, if I go home and get my car and put Steve Kinser on it, will you let him start in the back? Do you remember that? Yes, and you won the damn race.
I remember, because I was actually in the point championships at that time, and Dad was running second in it. I'd been driving Bob Thompson's car there all year at Bloomington. And we could get around Bloomington really well. We struggled at Paragon a little bit. With anything with some bank and some momentum and stuff we ran good at. So I was we had motor problems and wasn't going to be able to compete anymore and that night. And they had a short field of cars, and actually Cecil had just got the car back together. It wasn't, the bad part about it is Calvin had just got killed in the car a month or so ago before that, I think. And,
at Bloomington, Calvin Gilstrap.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that the car you got in? That was Cecil's
the car that Cecil brought up there, yeah. And it was sort of a similar car.
Is that scary to get in a car that someone had just lost their life in?
No,
Did you think about that?
I just wanted to race.
Okay, I got it. Go on.
And Dad went along with it, you know what I mean? So basically he was giving up a championship.
Yeah.
Because he was going to win that championship, but he had won a lot of local championships. I don't think it really meant that much to him. He'd much rather see me win it, I'm sure. So Cecil went and got the car and we come up and we raced it.
Wow. That's a cool story. And started from the tail and won the race.
We did start from the tail and won the race. Yeah.
That's so cool. So 37 years full-time on the World of Outlaw Tour, 1978 through 2014. And you think about that, 37 years full-time on that tour, and you're running 100-plus races a year. I don't understand how you handled that grind. I mean, it almost seems subhuman to me. I don't get it. How did you handle the grind of the World of Outlaw tour for that long?
Well, it was a lot easier on the driver than it was the crew people that
Okay.
take care and clean rigs up and mount tires and do all the service work. I mean, I could go back and when the race is over and have a couple drinks and whatever I want to do and go to sleep.
Okay.
And they had to wash things up, and so it was. I mean, it's just a love for racing. You just grow up for it. It wasn't nothing I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do for a living, let alone I didn't know I could make a living racing cars. I didn't know I didn't want to lay blocks the rest of my life, so I was pretty sure of that.
Did you do that for a while?
Yeah, I
Bricklaying?
did it. I actually did. When I first went to work for him, I did a few other things after I got out of high school. And I actually, when I went to work for him, Dad just sort of worked at his pace, and he'd take a few contractors and work for him, and that just enough he could work, and then he had all his weekends open, and if he wanted to take off, he could take off. And once I graduated from high school, I think he started taking on a lot bigger jobs, masonry jobs and things, and got a few more people working for us, but it only lasted for a very short period of time because I got in a race car. But I never made a dime in my life, and all once I'm making, we'd get done and we would pay the other masons, and I'm on one hod carrier. I had too many masons in one hod carrier, and I was a hod carrier, I can tell you that.
What'd you call that?
I was getting them all the blocks and the
Oh,
bricks and
okay.
stuff, setting all the scaffolding
grunt
up,
work.
and yeah, I was their laborer. And so, anyways, it was good times. All once I'm making some pretty good. Well, after he'd pay everybody, then we go racing and make some few more monies on the weekend. All once I started had money in my pocket.
Yeah. When you look at the long haul over your career, did you bring in more money from winning races, purse money? Did apparel compete with that? Did you make just as much money on your apparel? Because I've never seen your lines were huge at your trailers.
You know, back in the earlier years, we could make probably made more money back when we used to have them waiting in line in the pit area because it didn't cost us a lot to build that stuff, and you didn't have to have a rig up and down the road and pay for all the stuff. But we did pretty good there, and as the time went we made more money racing, of course.
Sure. Okay.
Apparel did not make that much, or it did do all right, but
Not as much.
Dana might have kept most of it.
You don't
ask
know.
her. She wouldn't go. No,
I will.
she would give a little bit of up.
So I know you don't like being up on the pedestal. You don't need the attention. You're very well grounded. I respect that. But your numbers are just amazing. 20 World of Outlaw championships, 12 Knoxville national titles, 7 times a winner in the King's Royal, nearly 700 A feature victories. I know you won races in USAC, All-Stars. You ran the Indianapolis 500. Records are made to be broken, except yours. I don't think anyone's ever going to get close to what you did. When you think back on your career, are you as amazed as I am over what you did?
I would have never thought I would have had a career like that, I can tell you that. I always wanted to race so bad, and I just always thought I had the talent to race. I just didn't know if I was ever going to get a chance to race, especially in a sprint car and things. So just everything fell in place for me. I was very fortunate. Everything worked out for me the way it did. And again, when I was in Karl's car, I had some of the best thing when I ran USAC cars, when we come in, like when I started on the sprint car race and the champ car, it was in good equipment then. And so after that, I always had, no matter what, if I was a driver car, whoever I was driving for, I had very
You were in good stuff. Yeah. How did you go all those years without serious injury? And Alan, I know you went your career without serious injury. How'd you do it, Steve? Or were there injuries we don't know about?
Oh, we both were going to have some arthritis and stuff like that. I've had to have neck surgery once, but it wasn't nothing that I was always in pretty good shape. I got heavier as years went on and things, but I don't know. It was just very fortunate. I think, of course, the wings help a lot, stuff like all those races.
When you start tumbling, I guess.
I grew up, I was a non-wing racer, and we raced it was a promoter's choice for the up until about 82 or 3, and then we went to all wing racing. So we was 50-50, you know, we had ran 50% of them non-wing and 50% of them wing racing. But I grew up around non-wing racing and pretty well, but that was my goal to be, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
sort of the money come with the World of Outlaws when I met Ted Johnson.
Did you get along well with him?
Yeah, I
Ted?
got along great with Ted.
Okay.
Ted could be a lot of trouble. He'd make a lot of promises and very little of it would come through. But all in all, he loved to race people and he was a race fan himself. I know when I first started, for the first 2 years, I'd have to take off early and go to every radio show and every little TV spot. You'd wait around in there.
Pain in the ass.
They around and do a sports shop and do a 15-second, like there were 2 hours to do a 15-second spot, but that was part of it. And you know, that was for the first few years. I did a lot of that, and then it just sort of caught on. You know,
This rivalry with Sammy Swindell, was that in part manufactured to sell tickets, or